Hello, everybody. Welcome to our virtual book club with Claudette McGowan. We are so excited to introduce her for this month for our virtual book club event. It's a little bit different this month in that we are doing a children's book, and we are very excited to have Top 100 Award winner Claudette McGowan and her book, Triple Threat. Claudette is a global information technology leader with more than 20 years of success leading digital transformations, optimizing infrastructure, and leading new approaches that improve service experiences. She has worked in the technology industry for several organizations such as Deloitte, Metropolitan Police Services, North York General Hospital, Bank of Montreal, and TD Bank. Claudette began her career at BMO in 2000 and held multiple senior leadership roles, including Chief Information Officer, Enterprise Technology, Employee Experience. And in 2020, she joined TD Bank as Global Executive Officer for Cybersecurity. In her spare time, Claudette writes books for children, which we'll be talking about today, builds robots, and is the founder of Black Arts and Innovation Expo. Claudette holds her Bachelor of Arts from Lakehead University and a Master of Business Administration from Athabasca University. She is the recipient of several prestigious awards. In July 2020, she was recognized as the 6th edition of Bay Street's Bulls Power 50 issue that celebrates Canadians that are shaping the world. In 2019, Toronto Life recognized Claudette as one of the city's top 50 most influential Torontonians, and WXN recognized her as a top 100 Canada's most powerful woman in 2019. Adweek magazine heralded Claudette as Toronto Brand Star, and the Digital Finance Institute honored her as one of the top 50 Canadian women in fintech. Claudette also has had the honor of moderating what is being hailed as the most insightful one-on-one conversation with former First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama, in front of a sold-out crowd of 3,000 plus at Elevate, Canada's largest technology festival. So that is quite impressive. We're so excited to have you here today, Claudette, to talk about your career, your book, and have a little fun reading time as well. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take over.
Well, first of all, good afternoon. And if you're watching from somewhere else, good morning, good night. I'm just thrilled to be here. Thank you to the WXN for inviting me to share in one of my passions. So in many cases, people know me as being a leader in the community, being a leader in technology, and very few people know that I write books. So thanks for bringing that secret to life. And so the question is, why and how and where do you find the time? That's probably the number one question I get. And I will say that writing has always been a passion of mine. From being preteen, I was writing short stories, and I had this vision of being a full-time author. And then I started looking at the economics and thought maybe I'll do something on the side. So that's where the technology comes in. But in all seriousness, when I'm in New York, in some markets, they actually only know me as an author. And so they'll look at my LinkedIn profile and say, what's that banking thing? And so I'll tell them it's good for us to have a side gig every now and again. But just thrilled to be here. And honestly, this book, Triple Threat, is something that was really special to me because I was inspired to write the book by my daughter. And so I was always amazed that, her at a very young age, she'd pick up a microphone and, this beautiful voice, and she'd just sing, and there could be 10 people, there could be 1,000 people, and she would, just be out there. And I watched her and I thought, at her age, I would never, ever even dream of doing something like that. So I looked at that as something to inspire all of us, and to say that we get inspiration from everyone, anywhere, all the time, and just to keep our eyes open for it. So with that, I'd love to read from the book and share with you the story of Savannah and how she, was faced with a couple of challenging situations, and and managed to overcome. So this is Triple Threat. Okay. Thank you to my illustrator, Tyrus Gaucher, for the wonderful artwork that he did in bringing my story to life. Here we go. A girl named Savannah had a dream. It was one she could not forget. She longed to be a superstar, also known as a triple threat. A triple threat can act, sing, and dance in a class above all others. Savannah wanted to dazzle the world and show off to her older brothers. Finally, her chance had come with auditions for the school choir. Well, when she tried to sing, her voice just croaked and her pitch was like a flat tire. She ran away, her face streaming tears. This only proved her very worst fears. I'm too afraid. I'm not so good. I don't measure up the way I should. As time moved on and a year went by, Savannah felt lost and painfully shy. Until her cousin reminded her, don't you ever quit. So you had one setback. It's just one setback. That's it. The inspiring words were powerful and gave Savannah the courage to try. She said, okay, I'll dance at the next party. I say, why not? Instead of why. So the big night arrived. Savannah was fierce. She was twirling and pop locking. And all of a sudden, what happened next? Well, it was absolutely shocking. Did somebody push her? Was it a slippery piece of gum? Everyone witnessed that horrible moment when Savannah slipped and fell flat on her bum. Savannah jumped up quickly and darted away. She went into hiding for at least 1 month, I'd say. When she returned, she looked down while walking, never smiled or laughed, and avoided all talking. Her family was saddened. Savannah cut off all her friends. She thought, triple threat, what a joke. More like triple loser is how this ends. Her older brother decided it was time to take charge. My sister is amazing, and her talent is super large. So he secretly filmed her as she danced around the yard. He recorded her singing when she let down her guard. He knew she wouldn't be happy, and as usual, she'd call him a silly boob. But he clicked, uploaded, and submitted. Now Savannah is all over YouTube. 5 views, 100 views, 1 million, and growing. America, China, India, where wasn't she showing? Savannah was discovered and offered her own TV show. A lead role on Broadway. Now she's rolling in dough. She is living her dream, and no one will ever forget that Savannah McDougall is a real triple threat. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudette, so much for that reading. We did have a few questions that came in, and the audience here, if you want to answer a question at all or ask a question at all, you can put it in the chat. We have comments, loved it, coming through. We did have questions, and I think you touched on it a little bit at the beginning. You said, what inspired you to write this story? That was one of the questions.
Yeah, I think, we always hear about, people having a dream and not knowing how to get there. Or you'll hear about these overnight sensations, whether they're doing something in tech, they're doing something in medical, they're doing something in the arts, but there's a journey and everyone has a journey. And it was important for me to share with my daughter that as amazing as I saw her as being, that you're gonna have these moments of adversity, and it's the persistence, the overcoming. I have this really amazing friend that she describes resilience as bouncing back and bouncing forward. And so what I loved is that in this situation, things went wrong. And yeah, you got to take your moments to understand and learn, but don't ever quit. That's really why I wrote that, is to reinforce that. And it's for my daughter, it's for me, it's for all of us, because again, especially in this day and age, in this time where we are in the world, boy, are we challenged. How are we going to get past it?
Yes, definitely. I love that. Bounce back and bounce forward. Another question that came through is, what would you tell your younger self knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. And then my thought is about being bold and courageous. And I think I see the boldness and courageousness in Savannah. But I also know that for myself, that wasn't who I was at that young age. And it takes a while to get there. So when you're not bold and you're not courageous, you have to ask yourself, well, why? What's driving you, or what's preventing you from realizing your full potential? And in many cases, it's about fear. And I say this in many talks, so anybody who's heard me speak before, I ask you to reframe fear, because you can look at that word fear and see the F, the E, the A, the R, and say, well, hey, that means forget everything and run. Or you can reframe it, and that fear could be face everything and rise. And so I think we have to get underneath why we're not bold, why we feel that we can't do things, and then how do we reframe that so that we really do get that lift. So that's my feeling. But I would say be bold, be courageous, and start as early as possible.
Wonderful. What do you think parents can do to teach their kids resilience at a young age?
Yeah, I think it's about letting them know that it's not all, puppy dogs and rainbows and sunshine. You will have adversity. So what are you going to do when everything goes right and you're on that happy path? And what are you going to do? What tools can be in your kit for when things aren't right? So, having real conversations, sharing stories about others, I think is really powerful. Opening their eyes at the right time to the things in the world that are, are challenges for all of us. Helping with things like emotional intelligence, right? Self-awareness is really key. And I found that as I got a broader view of the world, I'm born in Toronto, I have a North American lens. And then as you meet other people or you travel, you realize that, you know what, you have a piece of the story. And so encouraging our children to really understand what's happening globally, I think is a great gift that we can give to our children.
So what are the types of tools or methods that you use for your own daughter to show her a global perspective?
I think travel is a big one, and travel now can be traveling online, click, click, right? But being aware of what's happening, meeting other people, understanding diverse perspectives, is really key. I always say that you need to look around your circle and say, you know, is everything homogenous? Or are we really, you know, trying to understand the experiences of others? Reading. My father constantly told me reading is the key to knowledge. And so I'm a reader, and that's another form of travel because you get to learn so much and experience so much, all from the comfort of, you know, your home, your bed, by the fireside. So I always encourage kids to read. I have a son and a daughter, and you know, we actually go to the bookstore. And I spent a lot of time in Toronto Public Libraries, Witchwood, Pleasant View Library, you know, Brookbanks, and I found that to be a part of my life. So that to this day, we spend time just like everybody pick a book, what are we reading, and we share. We have our own mini little book club. So I know more about anime than I probably should, but my kids are really, really into anime right now.
Wonderful. Can you tell me maybe a bit about your career background and outside of authorship, and maybe how that's also influenced your authorship?
Yeah, my career has been really always about helping people and enriching lives. And so whether it was helping them to learn more about technology, helping them to be more protected, and the surprising part of this helping is that I'm the product. My mother was a nurse. And so I grew up just watching her help people. And I used to think, my gosh, you know, give yourself a break. And then I find myself following those patterns as well. So my career, as much as it's about a specialization, the thing that underpins it, it was always focusing on helping people, enriching lives, and try to make things better as I walked away than how I found it. That's been very important to me. So I studied like everybody else. You know, some of it sticks with you, some of it doesn't. But I found that being a continuous learner, I'm always in a course. I'm always trying to learn something, especially in technology. You know, something you learned a year ago might not be as relevant today. So I'm constantly challenging myself to learn. But the career path, it's financial services, police services, you know, healthcare services. There's always this element of service.
Wonderful. Do you think in today's day and age, it's more helpful for people to be a triple threat and be good at many different things, or is it better to focus on just one thing and become a specialist?
Yeah, and this is again my personal opinion, and I'll tell you, my son, when he heard and saw the book, he's the older one, and he said, "Triple threat? Why are you limiting her, Mom? Why only 3 things?" So this tells you a little bit about our household. But I honestly believe that we have to learn how to wear multiple hats, and I think again back to being resilient and versatile. I can't tell you how many people I've heard have said the word pivot to me in 2020. I was doing this and then I had to do this, right? And so I am an advocate for, first of all, using both sides of the brain, for doing things that, you know, bring you joy, offer other people joy. And if you can learn more than one thing, absolutely. Because I think it helps us to be a little bit more resilient and able to withstand some of the challenges that happen, specifically in this day and age.
Now, you talked about how you're better known in the US actually for your authorship. So how did it happen that you built that relationship in the US with your book versus the work that you do here in Canada?
Yeah, there's a big event every year called Book Expo. And so I used to go there, you know, and be an author and talk to different folks about that journey. And so that contributed quite a bit. One of my earlier works, it was a book about big topics for little kids. So, you know, what are some meaty things that as parents, we don't know how to talk to our kids about them. So writing these little vignettes, I thought would help spark conversation. And there was an agency in the United States who took one of those stories and turned it into a public service announcement. And again, I got the video and I was blown away. because when I wrote the book, I again, thinking locally, like this is going to be great for my community, it took a whole other shape and form. And so that's why I'm an advocate for being a creator. The majority of us in the world are consumers. There's a segment of folks that like to create so others can enjoy their works of art or their works of, brilliance, call it what you may. And so there's that element for me, is trying to create things that people can enjoy is really powerful. And so in the US, I think it was between the public service announcement and my visits to the Book Expo and being in communities, because writers like to partner and share, that really helped me. And there's a publication called Publishers Weekly, and they've been very big supporters of mine as well too.
Wonderful. For those who are interested in writing books, do you recommend finding a publisher or self-publishing?
Yeah, my thought, especially in this digital age, is that if you want to control and be in charge of the whole process, then you would probably pursue self-publishing, or having somebody who could be like a book coach and help you walk through the process, because it's very, very possible. But of course, you get the scale and the investment of working with one of the more established publishers. But I don't think there's any barriers to entry now. And so I tell people, hey, listen, get a notebook or start writing down, because your life, it's unique. Your thoughts are unique. And just like I never thought this thing I wrote would become a public service announcement in a completely different country, it has use and there's value in it. And so I almost feel like, how could you not share if you know what it could do for others? So I love to share stories. Sometimes they're my stories, sometimes they're stories in my head, and then to see what happens to them and to see how it adds value to others. So I say, everybody, start making your notes, because you have a book in you, at least one, and two, really, really recognize the importance of just the sharing. Don't do it for yourself. Think about what you could do for others, and you'll probably get writing right away.
Wonderful. What is your advice on how to help your child finding a career that would best suit them when they're kind of unsure?
Yeah, I have this conversation in my household as well, and sometimes my kids are like, "Oh, mom," because I say I don't have a career in mind for my kids. I just want my kids to have joy in their life. And so I ask them, what brings you joy? So I'd ask you to ask your children what brings them joy. And sometimes, like, I have one child that says, I don't know. And then do some observation and watch them. And you've been with them their whole life. When did you see the face light up? When did you see the energy pick up? That might help them to find their joy. And then there's these wonderful assessments that I did with one of my children, who was kind of trying to think through, where the passion is, and is it this thing or is that thing? And they found the assessment to be very, very helpful. But sometimes it comes to us over time and it comes to us over experience. But I go back to that. If you're doing something that you love, it's going to be super easy to do it, as opposed to doing something that other people love or other people want for you. And as much as we want to, control everything when it comes to our children, we'll find that they'll be most fulfilled when they're embracing their passion, not necessarily our passion for them.
Wonderful. Do you have any aspirations to do any further books about Savannah?
Yeah, I had a book about my son, and now I have a book about my daughter, and yeah, that's probably it for books about my kids. But what I am working on is a book for your kids, and it's about cybersecurity for kids. So I feel that that's something, the younger they are, we hear about the 1-year-old swiping or the 2-year-old swiping, and I'm quite sure they didn't have their cyber literacy training. So just something to again spark some conversation with our children, ages probably 3 to 9, because the internet is a really real thing. This is where we're learning now. Look at all the kids working from home or working remote. And I think the earlier we get our kids cyber literate and aware, the better off it's going to be. These apps are great to use, but we have to give them the rules of the road as well too. So I'm going to find an interesting and fun way to convey that message to kids.
Love that. Yeah. My daughter's in high school now, but definitely the same thing where I don't, they're finding the joy in it and they use it so easily, but they don't necessarily know the consequences of actions yet. So
yeah.
Good. Does anyone else have any other questions that they'd like to throw into the chat and we can read them? I think that's it. We had
good questions. They're really
yeah,
good questions.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have any parting words? Oh, wait, I just got another one. Can you talk about the process of writing and publishing?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, when I talk about that story inside of all of us, I think it's important to write about something that you have, you have love for. And sometimes to think about who you're writing for. Like, and I said, I'm writing for your kids. Who's your target audience? Who are you thinking about? Who's going to get benefit from your writing? So that's important to think through that. And then really just to start jotting out, I start with an outline, what's my main message? What's the narrative? How can there be some value in this? And it's interesting when you have your, you do your market research and you get to find out from people what would give them utility or what would be of value to them too. So I think jot out an outline when it comes to your book. Think about who your target persona is, and then really just start writing. And it's not going to be perfect. And I've heard this, at some point you say it's good and it's enough, or you'll forever be writing. I have a very dear friend who's now, 10 years working on her book, and it's still not there, right? So I think of all the folks that could have got value from it, 3 years ago or 5 years ago. So yeah. That's an important thing. From a publishing standpoint, if you're going to go your own route, there's some logistic things like getting your own ISBN. That's that barcode on the back to say that yes. You are the publisher. Having a company, is it going to be, I see Farzia Khan here. Is it Farzia Khan Publishing, or is it going to be something that you've created your own business? And so you have to think through the economics of that as well too. Think about the pricing of your book, the packaging of your book. There's a lot of specialists that play a role in having a book come to life. So, you're the writer, but you saw Tyrus Gaucher was my illustrator. We had somebody who did the editing, then we had someone who packaged the book, going to get the legals and from the different archives and getting your book in the archives of the cataloging, whether you're in the US or in Canada or somewhere else, making it a record, like this is an official book of this country's history, is really big too. So there's about 20 big steps of things you need to do. And there's some really great books, like Self-Publishing in Canada is a great book that I certainly have read. There's a gentleman named Dan Pointer. He's written some great books on how to walk that journey on your own. So it's a wonderful experience. And something that, again, I encourage you all to look into and then to decide, does it make sense to go on your own or to work with a publisher?
And then now, obviously, this is kind of your second time around or whatever, but like from start to finish, how long would the process usually take?
Yeah, the marketing of books is probably what takes the most time, letting people know your book is coming. But I think, 6 months to a year is a reasonable time to give yourself to get things put together. If you're very motivated, 6 months. If you've got, other things on the plate, probably a year to, 18 months.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a rapid fire based on a question that came through. So who is your favorite nonfiction author?
Oh my gosh. I have so many, honestly. I'm going to go back to my my early days and say someone like, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'll have to think. Go to the
I'll
next
leave you
question.
with
I
that
think.
one.
Yeah. Let me think
What
about that.
about a favorite fiction author? So maybe a favorite fiction author that's a children's and a favorite fiction author that's an adult.
Yeah. So I really loved. I was thinking about like the back to generations, like how much I love the Judy Blume books, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go down that path. And then I like to read business books, to be quite honest with you. I read a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck that I found very powerful too. So again, I go between fiction and nonfiction, and in many cases when I'm reading, books, for learning, they tend to be things about mindset, about process, about strategy, nerdy stuff, right?
Yeah,
And tech books, of course, yes.
of course. So we saw in your bio you had the opportunity to interview Michelle Obama. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, no, that was a great experience and just a phenomenal human being. And just, she was extremely candid and shared with us, some of the high points and some of the more challenging points, which I thought was really nice of her to be so honest with us. And folks asked me, well, how did you, how did that all come about? How did you prepare? And for me, I said I wanted to be authentic. And there's questions that I want to know, and I think other people want to know, and I'm going to ask those questions. And she was so gracious and said everything, absolutely, go ahead. And then there was follow-up questions as well. But my even career pivot was something that I kind of talked about. Say, I'm thinking about doing some different things, and she was again an advocate for go out there, swing for the fences, and so that was also part of my decision-making process to switch jobs in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes. Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we obviously we're quite in touch with you the last year, with you being a top 100 winner, and to see that you did make that switch. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Is there something that you haven't done yet that you'd like to do before you retire? Like a goal that you have?
Yeah, I haven't been to the moon yet, so I'm talking to Elon Musk, and we're working something out. But in the meantime, no, actually, the thing that I am most passionate about right now is about our online health and our cyber literacy and our cyber fluency. And as the world has become more digital, we are seeing, these threat actors, these folks that want to give us or make us have a not so positive day online, really challenge, where we are today. So I want to do a lot more on the cyber literacy component of things, because I think that it's going to be a game changer if we can get the level of knowledge up across all demographics, because everybody is doing more online now than ever before.
Okay, so that leads me into two other questions. What are your thoughts on, I guess, the volume of like Zoom meetings and being, I don't know, visual more than ever before? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's important to make sure we're incorporating movement into our day. So I'm seeing more people get the sit stand desks, or you're on a meeting and someone tells you, hey, I'm on a walk as well, because I think that's important. So there's Zoom or WebEx or Teams. There's all these different tools. I think we should try to limit. I'm worried almost about our eyes too, right? Like how many hours can we stare at a screen? So I think it's just finding balance. And when you have to have face-to-face and it makes sense, absolutely. But on other quick checkpoints, leveraging other tools to communicate, I think that's important for us. But the movement element is something everybody I talk to is like, oh my gosh, my pants aren't fitting anymore. I'm in track pants, so when we all get back to work, we may not recognize each other. But I am motivated by people like Nkechi, who works with me at TD. She puts out these exercise videos, or people who are talking about mindfulness. I called a friend. I said, "Hey, what are you doing?" He says, "I'm meditating." So I think we're getting we're embracing new ways of coping and working within the confines of where we are. And I'm very excited about, getting past this stage, but also being reflective and learning from what did it teach us all.
Yes, definitely. I think when we first came into this pandemic, we didn't really realize maybe how long it would be. And obviously we're seeing light on the horizon, so that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, yeah, I think as a society, as a country, we're finally realizing this isn't short term necessarily, and we do have to be more mindful for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So the other question, because you kind of said a little snippet, so what are your thoughts on online like shaming and how what it's kind of turning into, how easily it happens, how, without going into like an in-depth discussion, but like how can people handle that, or how should they address it as well?
Yeah, I think there's two things. There's one is, I always go to root cause, right? So we have to go with the people who are doing it and the why they're doing it. And so I would like to get underneath that or peel that onion back, just to understand like what value would I have of offending you or anybody else? What could I get? Why would I take an ounce of my energy to do that? And so I would like to get to the root cause of that. I think there has to be obviously better monitoring and controls. Like, so, even when we started this call, there was something that came up that said that like that type of behavior is not tolerated. So I think being really clear upfront around what's okay and what's not okay, but also being aware of the fact that it's a reality. And so we have to create, systems, tools, processes to combat those type of behaviors and education. Like I said, I'm a reader, I'm a continuous lifelong learner, and I do believe that we can correct things through education and get underneath it that way. But I like to get under the root of things and really understand why anybody would do it, because it's energy and it's your time. And so if it's for shock value, okay. But probably there's more that person needs than for us to just ding them for what they did, but to understand why they did it, and then to help other people to prevent them from doing it too.
Perfect. Is there anything, any kind of short-term goals that you have in terms of your career, authorship, anything like that in the next few years or next year?
Yeah, I would love, back to the cyber literacy, I would love to be able to talk about how many people we're helping in that vein, and how we can learn globally to be online. I call it be connected and protected. Because I think that's really important, that we can do it safely. And you're going on vacation and you have this beautiful vision of all the time you're going to spend relaxing and at ease, and then you go online to surf and you're like, is someone watching me? Can they hear me? And you've got all this fear and anxiety. How do we turn that online traveling experience into the physical traveling, so that same experience that you feel comfortable and safe? And I think there's a lot of ways for us to do that. And so that's my mission. I'm so focused on that because I believe it will help all the generations that inhabit the earth. We share the earth, we share the space. Let's try to protect each other.
Wonderful. Okay, I think that's everything that we have today. Do you have any parting words that you'd like to share?
The number one thing, and I'm sure you guys have heard this a bunch, especially after the big awards, but just thank you so much to the WXN. Thank you to you, your entire team, to Sherry for her leadership. I just continue to see remarkable things coming from you guys, and I always say, anytime you need anything, count me in, because the work that you're doing, it's making meaningful and impactful changes. And the more of us winners that come back and pay it forward, I think is really important. So we're gonna continue to lift others up. And it's happening, I think, as a result of the example that you guys put out there. So kudos to you for your leadership. Thank you so much, WXN.
Oh, Thank you so much, Claudette. We truly appreciate you taking this time and sharing your book and sharing your knowledge with others. It's always great to have an opportunity to learn about new and different things. And of course, we fully support all of our members and our top 100 winners, and we really enjoy being able to have this time with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank
Bye.
you. I just have a few extra slides to go over to speak about for what's going on at WXN in the next few months. So I'll just review those. So thank you again, Claudette, for your time. And we'll bring up the slides. So we do have many more virtual book clubs coming up in 2021. Our first 4 months, we have Janice McDonald in January with Fearless, Girls with Dreams, Women with Vision. In February, we have Jody Kovitz. In March, Glory Meldrum. And in April, Leslie and Scorgi. And our whole year is booked with authors. We are doing a series right now. You may have seen it in your inbox, and if not, we do encourage you to subscribe. So our series is based on members of WXN and featuring their stories of their experiences and what X means to them in the WXN. And our membership is at a discount right now until the end of the month. So do take advantage of that until the end of 2020. It's a one-time payment of $99 or $8.25 a month. We're also featuring our Wisdom program right now. Our Wisdom program starts next year for our 2021 season. And we have fantastic mentors, which are past top 100 winners, that will mentor you in 4 sessions throughout the year 2021 if you register for our program. This is a great time to register. We have special member pricing, so $900 for the year or $1,200 for non-member. And this runs the whole rest of next year, so includes monthly sessions, 4 sessions with your top 100 mentor, and as well program booklet and guidance all the way along the way for the whole year. We have more virtual events coming up in January and actually the rest of December. So we still have one more Monday Mojo next Monday. And in January, we start with Prem Gill and sorry, I'm blocking my screen here. Prem Gill and Bailey Parnell. So they'll be speaking about 3 different topics in January. And we're very excited. We're going to be working with IG Wealth Management in January and February with Women, Wealth, and Wellbeing, Empowering Women's Success. So there will be 4 sessions with them in the months of January and February. And that's everything. Thank you very much, everyone, for your support of WXN, and we look forward to seeing you at our next events. Thank you.